So yes, good morning. It is my late shift at work again, which means I'm going to go out for an early run and do one of these weird layering videos. So what you would have seen rubbing my arm earlier, what you would have seen the packaging anyway, it's hemp protein powder. Essentially, it's got this kind of nutty taste. You can add it to things like porridges, desserts. I actually like adding it to my rice pudding and things like that, smoothies, shakes, anything like that. It's super versatile. It has all these health benefits. It doesn't mention though about rubbing it on your arm for a weird fragrance layering video, but what I wanted to see if it can add a little bit improved performance and increasing nuttiness with my fragrance. Now, I did add a bit of Vaseline beforehand, or petroleum jelly. Essentially, I mentioned this last week. I did a review on maca root powder, which was like a root vegetable. Gave this kind of caramelized sort of smell, essentially. It was a little bit darker than that, a bit balsamic. But it worked quite well. It was just, it didn't feel like it stuck particularly. It felt like the water had washed it off. And I had to apply a bit of water because it was really, really dry. It was going all over the floor. But I have tried to now, just with that bit of Vaseline as well, hopefully hold that powder in place a bit more so we can get that bit of extra performance. It's going to be really interesting today. What I've got here, I've got a little sample from Marks and Spencer's. I've actually got the full fragrance of this one. It's just black pepper. To be honest with you, if you just want a general vibe, it's kind of just got this masculine body spray type smell to it. Nothing too different, nothing too daring, nothing you've not really smelled before. So I'm going to open this up in a minute. And essentially we're going to do applications. If you haven't seen this before, I'll apply this essentially before I go for my run. We'll do 3 checkpoints on my run where I'll update you to see how strong it is, how much it develops over time. And yeah, just see if the performance of this does really well. This isn't the strongest powder. I'm not sure how well this is going to do, but I do hope it gives a kind of nutty background, because a sort of nutty note is quite nice in fragrances. I do like them, particularly almond in fragrances as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. In terms of initial impressions, it's got kind of a grassy smell, so I think it's time to add a bit of fragrance to it. Do a little bit more. There we go. So yeah, the smell was quite strong initially, but obviously where I've had long sleeves on, it's worn off a tiny bit. But last week I said this as well, the maca root had no power, and then about, I think it was the second checkpoint, it really, really picked up. And now I'm rubbing it in, I can really feel that sort of gritty, powdery feeling on my arm. It's not the most pleasant, let's say. So that's sitting on there. At the moment, I can't really smell any of the application. Oh, that is dripping off my arm. And that's probably enough then for that side as well. So there's really 2 things I'm looking for today. I'm looking to see if the fragrance can be stronger with the layering, and also if it can change the smell. Last week it definitely changed the smell. Performance by the end wasn't a huge amount different, but we'll of course do an indoor test as we get around. But what I'm going to quickly do, get my stretching done, come back in, do a quick update before we go, and then we'll do our checkpoints on the run. Okay, so we're ready to go now. I'm going to give Miles a quick smell, see what we can pick up. So the side without the watches, without the layering. And then this is the side, sorry, that's with the layering. The side with the watches without the layering. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was expecting a little more. Not because this obviously is a strong thing at all, but it feels like at the moment that petroleum jelly may have been a counterproductive thing. I thought this was going to help it because it was going to sort of lock the powder in a bit more to make it stick to the skin. But it feels like it's actually become the more dominant thing so far. I'm not really getting that nuttiness. Now, again, last week it was exactly the same with the powders, and I didn't apply any petroleum jelly. So maybe with this one, maybe it just needs my body to warm up a little bit just to release that fragrance a bit more alongside the powder. But that one's definitely more peppery, a little bit stronger. There's this kind of aquatic undertone with this one. Very, very synthetic, very cheap. And yeah, it just feels like that slight aquatic sweetness that you get from this black pepper fragrance is a little bit, it's not quite as sweet with this, but it's more because of that petroleum jelly. It's almost just taken the edge off it a little bit, which is fine, but of course we want the powder to be the dominant thing here. So what we'll do, we'll head out anyway. We'll do our 3 checkpoints on my run, so every sort of 2-3 miles. And yeah, fingers crossed we'll get a bit more performance from this sort of nutty protein powder, because it is very nice to eat. And it's not the worst smell in the world, but yeah, fingers crossed. See you out there. Wow, what a gorgeous morning it is today. Barely any breeze. Sun is out, it's really warm. The only problem is I've put too many clothes on. And yeah, I'm absolutely melting at the minute, but It's time to do checkpoint 1. I think this spray is going to need to help me get through today, because I did run last night, which was only about 12 hours ago, so I feel a little bit stiff. So let's try with the layering first, and let's do without the layering. Okay, to be honest with you, and I've said this with the Marks and Spencer sprays before, that first hour or so, and it's been just around an hour since I put on the fragrance, they're quite strong. They're really synthetic, but they do fall off almost straight away. You know, they don't last any more than 2-3 hours. I tend to just put it in my bag essentially, just as a bit of a top up. And I think at the moment that's just taking over the layering anyway. Even if there is maybe a slight nutty smell in the background, it's like grassy smell, it's not there. It's not really a problem. If you said to me, you know, what's on your arm, I wouldn't go, oh, there's a powder there with a fragrance, there's something else. It really is, you know, 95% fragrance dominant here, and you almost have to really do a big inhale to detect anything different. And even then, I'm doubting if it's just my subconscious mind knowing something else is there that's taking over. To be honest with you, I can't smell this one at all. Now, I do think this isn't going to be a real strong performer today, but I do actually think once this fragrance does wear off a little bit, because I am getting very warm, we might get a little bit more hope. I'm hoping from checkpoint 2 onwards we'll be able to get a slight improvement of this, because at the moment they're literally about 90% as strong as when I applied them, but it's pretty much 95 to 100% the fragrance here that is smelling. It doesn't really smell any different either side, so a little bit underwhelmed at the minute. It's certainly not as strong as the Macaroon. Let's hope on checkpoint 2 we'll get some better results. Okay then, it's time to do checkpoint 2, and I have noticed a couple of little changes so far without smelling my arm. I realised my glove was really sticking, because I'm wearing gloves today, and the back of my glove was really sticking. And of course it's probably because of the petroleum jelly. It feels like the petroleum jelly is now starting to seep out my skin a little bit, and it does feel very uncomfortable. Look, it's that oily, waxy sort of substance. But I'm hoping now that is seeming to escape a little bit from my pores, we're going to get a bit more extra projection here, extra performance, and maybe we'll be able to smell a bit of that hemp protein powder. So let's have a try. It's been about an hour and a half now, by the way. Okay, that's the side with the layering, and that's without. Okay, interesting. Right, what I'm going to say is the fragrance on my left side with the layering, with the hemp protein powder, is about, and this is about an hour and a half since I applied it, it's about 85% as strong as when I put it on. The other side without the layering is definitely dropping quicker. It's about 65% as strong. Now in terms of actual smell, I'm not getting any of that protein powder. That still isn't kicking through, and I'm really starting to doubt now whether it would at all. But I don't think I'm going to notice it on my run, that's for sure. Maybe inside. But the one thing I'm really detecting is, I think it's that Vaseline, that petroleum jelly is leading to that extra performance sticking from the fragrance. It is definitely stronger on this side, and if you saw when I applied it earlier, I definitely put more fragrance on the side without the layering, and again it goes back to it. So far from my experience, it's the waxy substances that really help with performance. But the problem is they block your pores at the same time. That's why it's not very comfortable on my glove. It almost feels like, you know, when you've got like wet sleeves, it's that horrible, uncomfortable feeling. And that's what I feel like at the minute with this. It's one of them. I think if you're using petroleum jelly or Vaseline, less is more. You know, even if you just put a little dab around your neck and then, you know, just spray once or twice, it'll probably be alright. Or even just on your chest, just a very, very small amount. But other than that, it's quite unpleasant. But I can't fault how effective it is. It is much more effective than anything else I've tried. And although it's unscented, it definitely takes a bit of that sweetness away. Almost a little bit like paint. It doesn't really smell like paint, but it's almost, you know, it's got that sort of smell to it where it's certainly toned down the more prominent, sweeter notes in things. And I suppose it's working in that case. Look, we haven't done that test for a little while, but it is certainly the powder that's suffering the most out of the three. If there's a competition, it is a definite last place, but we've still got one more checkpoint, And let's hope we can get some smell of that nuttiness at some point. Okay then, so it's been about 2 hours 15. It's time for the final checkpoint now. Let's see if we can get anything from this protein powder. Let's try with the layering first. Let's go out. Okay, yeah, there's one noticeable difference, and it's not the side with the layering, it's the side without. It's now probably, I think I said it was about 60% as strong earlier. We're now probably saying about 30-35% as strong. But to be honest with you, for a fragrance that's £10 for 100ml, what do you expect really? You know, 2.5 hours performance? That's not bad. It is more of a top-up spray, nothing too divisive, and that's what I'd expect. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's fine, it's very pleasant. Now the other side, the biggest positive I can say is that it hasn't really changed. Look, protein powder, there's still no smell at all. But that petroleum jelly is really keeping this fragrance locked in. It's still around 80% as strong as when I applied it 2 hours ago. And I honestly believe if I was to rub this on my skin and, you know, spray the fragrance on it, this would get me through the whole day at work today when I finish at 10 o'clock. I really do. I think this would easily last 9-10 hours, which is very, very impressive. Unfortunately, it's just not that pleasant on your skin. But the one thing I would say is sometimes when you spray fragrances, sometimes I might spray on my chest, and if you take your top off a few hours later, you can feel, or you can smell that there's been a bit of a transfer of fragrance. You can smell the fact you've had a spray on. With this one, I think it's so locked into your skin, it's so waxy, it's so hard to wash petroleum jelly off. You really need to use hot soapy water. But I think even if it does stick to your clothing a little bit, that jelly, it's not gonna cause too much transition. It's still going to last on your skin, even if there is a slight transfer to your clothing. And probably in defence of this protein powder today, look, anything that's nutty or grassy, particularly nutty notes, I think they tend to be more of a supplement in a fragrance. They don't tend to be the dominant note. You know, I think I like Lost Cherry, for example. You know, it's a very, very pleasant fragrance. But I think that sour cherry is the most dominant thing. And then that kind of almond smell sits in the background. And it's even the same as some of the others. I think of like By the Fireplace by Amazing Margera. I think that chestnut in it sits in the background a little bit more. It's never really strong, really in your face nutty nose. So maybe I shouldn't have really expected too much from it today. Whereas the macaroon, which does have that strong caramel effect, they tend to be those long lasting notes in fragrances as well. And maybe in terms of that powder that's the same. But there's no two ways about it. The petroleum jelly is making this fragrance last a lot longer, and yeah, maybe we'll have to do a bit more study, a bit more research into it, because out of all the weird layerings I've done, that still seems to be the main thing, and it's certainly making the fragrance stand out today. It's basically given it a piggyback to the finish line and decided it couldn't piggyback the hemp protein powder and left that one to finish in its own time. But yeah, we'll obviously do an indoor impression video when we get back, see if there's any change of smell once I've blown the nose and everything, because the pollen is certainly making me sneeze today. But yeah, nearly done now, and cannot wait for a coffee. Okay, so run done. Let's smell my arm then, just see what we can actually smell. Can we get any of this fragrance or any of the layering on top of the fragrance at all? To be honest, no. But again, going back to what I've said before, the performance isn't bad. Now, it has dropped. It's probably about 40%. You're probably talking about 10-15% on here. So again, petroleum jelly seems to be the dominant thing, but nutty things or nutty powders don't add too much within fragrances here. Well, that's not from my experience. The hemp protein hasn't done it. So you're better off having what it's actually for. Put it in food, put it in your porridges, your smoothies, whatever, and you're going to get more out of it. But was it unpleasant? No, because there was no real performance. Did it feel a bit horrible on my skin? It felt a little bit dry and gritty at times on top of the layering, but once I put the fragrance on, that oiliness kind of took that away. It's fine. It's not one I definitely recommend though, but petroleum jelly, once again, it's a good way to reiterate it. Definitely helps performance with fragrances from my experience. Certainly mixes well with my skin chemistry. The only problem is it blocks your pores a little bit. But yeah, let me know if anyone wants me to try any other weird things. There's plenty of things I can try, that's for sure. I think the next one I want to do is actually Earl Grey tea. Earl Grey tea's got bergamot and lavender in. Very popular notes in fragrances, as are black tea. So I look forward to doing that one soon. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this one today. Better get ready for work now, so I'll catch you later.